Hello and welcome to the Soulful Mamas podcast. You're with your host Maria, and welcome. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I've got such a beautiful guest for you to listen to. So you will need to be. This is one to listen to when you're feeling more relaxed and you're in a relaxed space. So maybe not doing all the multitasking as you're listening to this at the same time. Just maybe make yourself a cup of tea and sit down and tune in. Just before I introduce her to you, how is this time of the year going for you? We are, if you're following the Advent cycles, like I have been sharing over the last few weeks, the first Sunday, Advent Sunday, appreciation for the mineral kingdom, which was last week. So for me, it's putting my thought and my consciousness more on our foundation, our earth, the crystals, the stones, the rocks, the boulders. So much appreciation for the maunga, the two mountains that are either side of our property, Pirongia and Kakipuku. There's just this energy of strength and presence, and there's, I look up at them every morning and there's a deep, deep appreciation. And when I go down to the stream and all the boulders and stones and just the flow of the water making their way, flowing along, following that path of that stream and just flowing over and bouncing around the stones and the boulders and all the different, right down to the little gravelly bits on the bottom. There's just this beautiful flow. And, as the water flows past, it's collecting the medicine of those minerals, those stones. So this is the space of that mineral realm that we are, that our family are focusing on this week. And in a couple of days, well, actually tomorrow, our next Sunday, there's that appreciation for the plant realm. So that's my favourite. The trees and the plants and the flowers and the herbs and the vegetables. And maybe it means that's when you get your Christmas tree and decorate it, making wreaths, creating bouquets of flowers and maybe giving them as gifts to your friends or family. Just beautiful. So there's just more of awareness of that. And when we can drop into that, our natural world, it really helps ground us. It helps regulate in amongst all of the busyness that this year often brings. And the busyness isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It's exciting and wonderful and magical most often. But there is that fine line of the busyness becoming to a point of feeling overwhelming. And that's the part where we want to try and bring that back into some form of balance. So it's a harmonious flow into this festive season in whichever way you celebrate, rather than a runaway train that you feel like you've got no control over. So I have a gift for you today. It's something very special. My guest, Hannah Castillo, her story is beautiful, so I'm not going to go into it too much here, so you'll hear her. But just listening to her voice, you will feel, this is why I suggested getting a cup of tea. Your shoulders will drop, you'll just relax. Her voice is so calming, and her message is beautiful. Her experience is beautiful. She's experienced, she has a condition called POTS. She adopted her daughter. She is a counsellor, and also she creates meditations, and it's magic. So without any further ado, I bring to you the wonderful Hannah. Hannah, welcome to the Soulful Mamas podcast. It's such a such a treat to have you here today.
Thank you.
Um,
I'm so glad to be here.
yeah, thank you. Do you want to share with us a little bit about maybe firstly where you're from, where you are, and your journey into motherhood, what that looked like?
Well, I am in the United States, in Ohio, and my journey into motherhood is a little bit unique, but I would say everyone's is probably unique. So it's just kind
Mm.
of my story. So I adopted my daughter, and I adopted her when she was 8. So I would say that my decision to adopt actually started when I was a child. So I remember being as young as, oh gosh, probably 8 to 10 myself, telling my mom, I'm going to adopt when I'm an adult. So I just kind of always knew that that's what I was going to do. And when I graduated high school and went to college and went to graduate school, I developed some symptoms of something and ultimately got diagnosed with a chronic illness called POTS. Um, And people with POTS can have different degrees of how they tolerate pregnancy. So sometimes it can actually make your POTS worse to be pregnant. Other times it actually resolves itself. But I spoke with my doctors and they kind of said, in your case, probably it's going to make everything worse for you. So I kind of took that as confirmation that I was right all along. So I've kind of always
Yeah.
believed that things happen for a reason. So when I talked to my doctors, I was just kind of like, I always wanted to adopt anyway. So for me, that just kind of solidified that decision. So my husband and I had already had a discussion about adopting. We were on the same page. So we just kind of moved forward from then. Um, and we did the research. I had always wanted to adopt through foster care. So we actually adopted through the foster care system in America. So we
Mm-hmm.
went, we got trainings, we went to the foster care classes, and then we were matched with someone. We actually traveled to Texas to meet her. So we traveled to Texas, met our daughter. It's kind of a surreal moment. But the way it's set up is you go and you meet her and you get to spend 4 days together. And then you leave her and you come back home and you prepare your house. And then she's transported back to ultimately come and live here. So that's kind of how the journey
Wow.
went.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite special.
Mhm.
And that 4 days you are uh, um, in her environment. Is that how it works, or you're?
No, you go into the foster home and you're introduced there. And then you kind of
Mhm.
spend, I think we spent maybe an hour just kind of chatting, which is a little awkward, kind of unusual, as you can imagine,
Mhm.
especially with an 8-year-old. And then you leave with her and you go and stay at a hotel. So you spend that 4 days just in a hotel, doing whatever activities you would like to do as a family. That time, a caseworker checks in with you during that time. And then at the end, you take her back to the foster home and you travel back to your house. Um, for us in particular, I had done some, maybe lots of reading. At that time, I'm a mental health counselor. And at that time, I worked primarily with kids in foster care. So I had been a part of so many of these meetings of kids with their new prospective families or kids leaving their family and them showing up in my office with kind of their trash bag of belongings, getting ready to go to the next home and been a part of so many of these just tearful transfers. Um, so I really wanted our time with her to be more focused on building an attachment right from the beginning and
Yeah.
that value of connection. So for us personally, I loaded up our card with board games, swimsuits. So we pretty much spent all of the time together doing bonding kind of exercises. So the focus wasn't on how much money can we spend, how many big extravagant things can we pack into these 4 days. It was how can we just start connecting right now? So we, played Candyland, sat by the bed, we went swimming, went to a park and did cartwheels, had a picnic, those kinds of things. I think the actually only big thing we did was we did go bowling one day, which we all are equally bad at it. So that was something to bond over. Um, And then we had intentionally planned to have our first meal together at a restaurant that we also had a location close to our home in Ohio. So it was at BW3's, which is a restaurant that is kind of a chain in America. So we still, to this year, every year on the date that she moved to Ohio, we all have dinner at BW3. So that became like our annual celebration. So that just became a part of the journey.
Oh, I love that. I've just got little goosebumps up and down my body. It's so beautiful. Had your daughter been through this process previously with other prospective parents?
She had, in our case, my daughter's name is Emily.
Emily.
She had been in foster care since she was 2 and had already had a failed adoption. So that was another part of that just discussion and just that intention to really focus on those values of connection, attachment, and love, and family, and trust, and all of those things that I knew probably were missing for her. So we made a decision. Like, we did bring her a stuffed animal when we went to meet her, which she still has to this day. But and then we had made her a photo album just of pictures of, this will be your room, this is your school, here's your aunt, here's your uncle, those kinds of things. Here are our dogs, so that she could get to know the environment she was coming into. But beyond that, no gifts. So we really wanted the focus to be on, we want to get to know you and for you to get to know us. So we showed her family videos and things like that, that she could get a chance to see. And then when she moved to our home, we did not fill her room with things. So we brought all of her things back from her foster home and we unpacked some of them, so she'd have clothes and stuff, but we didn't go shopping and buy her lots of stuff because I know that that's what the previous family who had attempted to adopt her had done. They had gone and spent lots of money and just made her have this extravagant space and then gave her back, and what a horrible disservice for her. I don't know I don't know everything going on with them at that time, but we wanted to make sure that she had a different experience and that she knew that really what we wanted was family and that connection.
Yeah. Wow. That is so beautiful. Gosh. Oh, yeah. Just trying to imagine as an 8-year-old, Emily would have been probably seen a lot more, experienced a lot more in her few, young 8 years. And that discernment of character, perhaps, of that trust, or whether her guard was as a protective safety mechanism up quite strongly,
Yeah. And they
particularly
tell you
over
in
her heart. Yeah,
right.
carry
They
on.
tell you in foster care classes that, don't expect that instant love. Don't expect those instant connections. It takes time to build that. And of course, working with foster kids a lot at that time, that's what my practice was primarily focused on. I had seen that firsthand in a lot of people. But in my experience, I did feel that immediately. And I know that's not true for everyone, but maybe it's because I was so prepared my whole life that this is what I was going to do. Or maybe, like I said, I have truly always believed that things happen for a reason. And Emily arriving in our family just seemed to be that it was always meant to be. I mean, so many things had to align for her, particularly to arrive at our family. Like, we uploaded our home study to her platform, to their caseworkers for the state of Texas. They had like a separate platform. It was uploaded the day that her caseworker just happened to take a second look because she had already been matched with someone. And her caseworker was like, I don't have the best feeling about this person. And I had just uploaded our caseload and she was excluded from our search. So we never saw her profile. In her caseworker, who was one of the kindest, most genuine people I've ever met, just happened to choose us, that day. So many things just had to align. And then she actually called on my birthday to tell me that she had selected us. So I took that as just another sign,
Yeah.
So everything just aligned very well. So I did feel that instantly. And I know, like I said, that's not everyone's experience, but it was true for me.
Mhm.
And I think Emily wanted to, but was cautious,
Yes,
understandably.
understandably, yeah.
But we will still talk about to this day. And I know she's going to listen to this, so I know she'll hear this, but we will still talk about when we dropped her off. She was in the back seat of the car, counting on her fingers, driving her back to the foster home. And I turned around and looked at her and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "I'm counting how many nights I have to stay here until I can come home."
Wow.
So I think she really was ready.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. It really truly feels like it was absolutely meant to be, that divine timing, intervention, whatever you want to call it, but it's the stars aligning for sure that and even the knowing from your 8-year-old self that this is your destiny. It's already written.
Yeah,
Mm.
8, 10, somewhere in there.
Yeah, yeah.
All the time
I think
blurs as you get a little older, right?
yeah, yeah. How old is Emily now?
She will be 23 in a couple of months. So
Okay.
she is now an adult. She is getting ready to finish up college and earn her degree. And she actually just had her first child
Oh,
in the
wow,
spring.
congratulations. You're a grandmother as well.
Yeah. So she had her first child last spring. So it was wonderful to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to be in the room, in the birthing room with her when she delivered, and so was my mom. So it was like all of these generations just kind of here together with her fiance, who's fabulous. But we just all were in there together as
Yeah.
this new child entered the world. So it was pretty
Yeah.
special.
That is so special. And it continues. And this beautiful woven tapestry of support that, you've created or helped create and continued, she can now carry that through with the next generation, with her child, with her children. Mm, wow. Yeah.
And it's great as a mom to see her get to the place where she feels more settled. I think especially when you are adopting, and especially an older child like that, when they join your family, they're kind of already in process.
Yes.
So it's starting late in some regards, right? Because she had to uproot herself and she got her whole family when she was 8. So she had to establish all of those connections and all of those attachments and make friends and figure out how
Mm.
to navigate all of those relationships while also learning to trust that it really was forever this time.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
and that's a challenge.
would be. Because how long was the previous adoption? How long was the time frame?
It didn't make it 6 months because at 6 months it would have been finalized. So I'm not sure how long she was actually there before it was disrupted. But we actually, of course, we did finalize, because she's still my
Yeah.
daughter. But
Yeah.
but we actually went in front of the judge, and I know that helped her seeing the judge, sign. We all traveled back to Texas, sit in
Mm.
a courtroom, and the judge signs off that this is now your family. So I know that helped her some believe that this is forever. But she would still share even a couple of years after that, just those underlying fears
Mm.
that something would happen. So it did take her a while.
Yeah.
But you kind of watch those behaviors shift differently, I think, through that lens. Because for us, when she showed like typical kid behaviors, like when she lied for the first time, or, just those things that kids do, it was almost a relief,
Mm.
because it kind of showed like she's settling in, she's letting that guard down. She now
Yes.
knows that it's okay. So we're ready to step in and give those consequences and just kind of manage those things, just like a family would.
Right. So she was initially trying to do everything right so that you would not send her back, basically, even at a subconscious level.
there was kind of,
Probably, yeah, definitely probably at a subconscious level. But she
yeah,
would, everything had its place and she would always put everything exactly back where it was and line
right.
up everything exactly how she had it. And I'm sure some of that is because she had her own stuff, which she hadn't had before. So some of it I'm sure was the pride in having these belongings that she actually got to keep that were hers. But some of it also probably was, oh, as long as my room's clean and I do my homework and I go to school, everything's good. So it was nice to see some of that kind of slip into more typical kind of behaviors.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I guess it could go either way as well. The pushing back because that could start from the beginning as well because of the
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
And
think
what
she
a
was a little more on the anxious side. So for her, it was more of a internal kind of close in. So she didn't have a lot of that pushback until, she did have some of it because she is a kid. But, it was a little later. And a lot of that was just, being prepared to navigate those behaviors, just like any family would.
yes. And with the gift of having firsthand experience in your professional life as to, I know it's different when it's you, the shoe is on the other foot personally, but still you have that awareness and
Mhm.
some tools in your toolkit to
And I will say
explore.
I'm by nature very calm. I don't think anyone who knows me would argue with that. I know at one point Emily said, "Why won't you just yell at me?" And I was like, What good would that possibly serve for both of us to be upset?"
Mm,
So eh, typically there was never really the opportunity for things to escalate, because we had my husband and I, who's been a great dad to Emily, but he and I had set up everything for her to join our family. So we'd already made these intentional choices. Like I went to working part time. So I only worked 3 days a week. I was there with her a lot. I have a younger sister who was able to provide childcare until I got home the 2 days I did work. So
mm,
there were just a lot of things in place that allowed her to get a lot of really quality time. So
yeah,
it was very rare when there would be something that I personally didn't get to just be a part of or help her process pretty quickly.
yeah,
And I
mm,
think that helped. Um, Also, she just kind of naturally gravitated towards some of the things that I personally do. Like I journal, and she just started journaling. My husband and I both are avid readers, and so she would just go and read with us. We would just all go and sit and read somewhere sometimes. We all played games together, we went for walks after dinner together. So all of
mm,
those things. I'd say some of the biggest challenges for her probably were my health flared up again after we adopted her several years, but I went through a pretty big flare up where I wasn't able to be as present. And I know that was a little more challenging for everyone. Um, so we had to have to kind of work through that. And that just
yeah,
kind of helped me reevaluate the importance of making sure that my own self-care didn't take a toll and didn't, fall off because of balancing so many things. I was still working. At that point, I transitioned to working to a private practice, but I was still working. And Emily was involved in activities, of course, so I was now, I think I only missed one of her activities ever through all of school. So it was, making sure to be present for all of those, still working, still managing the
mm,
house, cooking dinner. Like I love to cook. And I cook almost every night. So just, managing all of those things.
yeah,
And my own self-care just kind of fell off there for a while. So really kind of looking to myself for how to carve out that time and make sure that those things really stayed in place so that I could be.
yeah. Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because that is you and pretty much every other mother we know.
Yeah, exactly,
That
right?
self-care, yeah, it gets put to the bottom of the ladder, and
Mhm.
until something there's a reason or something will happen and you're like, oh, okay. Something needs to shift and something needs to change. And so I guess having POTS was really speaking to you. So you had an actual, strong, if you don't do something, it's not going to get better on its own if you don't shift something. For
And
those
POTS by
people,
its nature, POTS has many symptoms. It affects the entire body. And it's one of those conditions that affects every person differently. So you look at all of these symptoms, this list of symptoms, and it can be things like GI problems, pre-syncope, which is like nearly passing out, migraines, headaches, body aches. So it can just affect everything, brain fog, fatigue, low blood pressure. So there's just this seemingly unlimited symptom list, right? And one of the things by nature is that if you get sick with something else, it will flare up your POTS. So what happened with my flare up was I got a virus. So I got a virus that, a typical person would get. They'd be sick for a week or two and they'd be better, but I didn't get better. So after the virus kind of resolved, my POTS flared up. So I wound up being sick for months, just having just real difficulty making it even to work consistently through sessions. And I wound up going to a treatment center, which helped me kind of develop a very specific plan for some of the things that they use to treat POTS. But that was probably one of the more difficult periods to just kind of navigate everything, because if I only had this limited amount of energy every day, where was I going to spend it? So my family was always top priority. So, if Emily was she's very musically talented. So she was in youth orchestra, she was in marching band, she played clarinet, she had a lot of concerts, events, things like that. So her things were always my top priority. So if I needed energy to make it to her concert, that was going to be where my energy was going to go first, right?
yeah.
So if that meant scheduling fewer clients that week, and I had to make that change. I've always been really organized, so I did always know when her events were, and I could make those adjustments, in advance typically, rather than having to feel like I had to bail on people at the last minute. But it did become a little more challenging to navigate. And
Yeah.
it got better after the treatment center. I went to the treatment center, which did take us back to Texas. That's where the treatment center is. So we went as a family, all three of us, back to Texas for 2.5 weeks for me to go to this treatment center. And so my husband and my daughter Emily, they both supported me through it, and I went there all day long, every day. And then we were in a hotel that whole time period. So it turned out later down the road, we found out I got exposed to something that I had a reaction to in the hotel. So I actually got sicker while we were there the entire time. So every day I got sicker. What luck, huh? But when I came home, I implemented some of the changes that they suggested, and they gave me a very specific treatment protocol for my individual symptoms, which gave me a lot of the balance that I needed. And I've always been a very big advocate of like finding your own balance. And they gave me some really just specific protocols. So they told me how much fluid to drink every day. One of the things that they use to manage POTS is fluid intake, and salt. Were recommended to have salt a lot. And I actually had been overhydrating myself, and that's what was causing some of my flare up, because no one ever gave me parameters. So when I was there, they were like, drink this many ounces a day, no more. Eat this much salt a day, no more. Have these snacks, So they gave me a more regimented plan. And they also suggested that I try meditation. So I started meditating every day in conjunction with that. And then I was working my way up to be able to include exercise again, because at this point I wasn't able to go for our family walks or anything. So when we got back, I started doing that again. And I still remember when I was able to walk around the block by myself again for the first time, which I know seems so insignificant for most people. But for me, it was so huge. I took a selfie halfway around the block and sent my husband a picture and was like, now I have to walk home, because I made it halfway there, right? And when I got home, I cried. Just being able to do that again just seemed like such a huge step to where we were. So after that, we were able to kind of go back and, do those those family walks again, and we could go hiking and do some of the things that I loved. And I keep up a lot of the things that they gave me at the treatment center. I have blocked out time every day in my schedule every day now for self-care to make sure that I really can maintain that. I meditate every day still. I do yoga every day. Emily did some of those things with me, though as an adult on her own. I'm not sure how many of them she actually does, but but when she was here, she was a really big, we just kind of turned those into bonding things as well. So we would go for a walk together and kind of talk and catch up about the day. She meditated with me sometimes. She would do yoga with me frequently and always give me a hard time about how much more flexible she was than I was.
Of
But it was
course.
just, yeah. But it was just, it became fun rather than the challenge that it had been initially.
Yes. I love that. It's, that whole glass half full or glass half empty way of looking at life. And you're obviously glass half full and you're just focusing on what can you do. And I love that there's a treatment center that you could go to that could give you really specific support and guidelines, strategies, techniques, because that's really particular, isn't it? The amount of water that you drink each day.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing I got from those is those specific recommendations, and it was hugely beneficial. Though I will say, I think that their particular treatment plan is very beneficial if you can be a really consistent, dedicated person. And I am. I just always have been. So for me, I'm really good about, this is what I'm going to do, and I will follow through with that and set a plan.
Yeah.
And I'm really good at being consistent. And I think it takes that, but also having that compassion on days when I can't. So for me, being consistent doesn't mean I do it every single day. It means I show up and try every single day. Some days I can't. Some days I don't have the ability. If I'm having more symptoms, I can't maybe go for a walk or go for a 2-mile walk or whatever, Maybe instead all that days I can do a meditation and do a few gentle yin yoga poses. But I still do that.
Yeah.
And I have enough
Just doing what you
compassion
can
these
do.
days, right? To have that understanding and not beat myself up and recognize, well, tomorrow I'll try again. And I follow that plan again. So I think
Yes.
that has to be said as part of being consistent. Doesn't mean I never miss a day or that I never have days where it doesn't feel hard, but I'm able to regroup and show up the next day.
Yeah. That self-compassion's is a big thing, isn't it? Because it'd be easy to, oh, well, it's not working. I'm just going to give up. It's just being kind to yourself. And today I can do this. And yesterday I did that. And tomorrow we will see. But right now, today, this is what I can do today, right here. Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, like even I am a mental health volunteer with this organization called Awareness for Patsies. And a lot of times when I talk with the founder in particular, we talk about parenting and what parenting with POTS looks like. And a lot of people feel like they are concerned, to try that. And that it is this extra layer. And I think it is an extra layer, but I don't think that it has to exclude you from being able to parent. We all have our stuff, right? Or at least that's my belief. This just for me, this is my stuff, and I think we all have something we're going through. And if we can work together as a family and support one another, we get through it. I was joking with the founder of the foundation one time that I felt again so relieved when I had passed out one day, and Emily came home from school and she stepped over me. Like I'd passed out like right inside the doorway. And Emily is very, very kind, very thoughtful, but it had freaked her out so much in the past when I'd passed out. Then when she came in, saw I was okay and just kind of stepped over me and went and got a snack and came back and was like, "Hey mom, you need a drink?" Like that to me, that moment, I was like, we're going to be okay. She's not going to be overly anxious or scarred from having to deal with this. She saw I was okay. She went ahead and grabbed a snack and came back and knew I probably needed a drink and got me a drink and came and sat with me and just told me about her day until I got up. And it was fine. It wasn't this whole big thing. And for me, that was such a hopeful moments, because rather than her coming in the door, I'm bursting into tears or being anxious or being so afraid, she was like, it's Tuesday. Mom passed out. Grab a snack. It's all good. And it was okay.
Mm. So wise and knowing already, as a child, and that's credit to you too as well. Obviously how you have and your husband brought this to Emily and normalized it in a way. This is part of you, and this is how we nap. It doesn't mean there are tools. There are things that you can do to navigate it. It's going to be okay.
And
And
part of that has
probably
been,
that.
she was, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, I mean, we never shielded her from that, and I think that's a big part of it is, like, just she's been included all along. Like when I went to the treatment center, like I said, my whole family was there. So, I mean, they heard the recommendations, they were part of it. They knew, they saw me integrating those tools. They saw me gradually increasing my exercise. She knows if I'm not feeling well on a particular day, probably what I need, and she will be the one that offers to get it. There's just this understanding, just like she has migraines. And on a day when she has a migraine, I'd be the first one saying, what do you need? What would help you? It's not always the same thing. So it's just everyone has those things and just coming together, as a family.
Yes, yes, so important. And also, as Emily's just become a mother herself, hopefully it's so embodied within her, the knowing of listening to her body, because you outsource not, it's all about the child, the baby, and you forget about yourself sometimes. So if she can remember,
I certainly
take care of
hope that
herself
she
too.
is working on that. I will say, during her pregnancy, one of the things she asked for, as we were leading up to the birth, was she asked me to create a custom meditation for her that she could listen to while she was in labor. And so I just thought that was so beautiful. Not necessarily that she wanted me to create it, although that was so honored to do that for her, but that she was thinking about listening to her body and giving herself that peace, and thinking of these creative ways to do it. I mean, like I said, she has meditated with me in the past, and done yoga with me in the past. And I'm not sure how much she keeps those things up now, but when she asked for that, it's like, okay, it's in there. It's in there somewhere, she's seen all of those benefits that I have. I mean, I still meditate every day. I try and encourage other people to try it. And it just meant a lot to see that had made an impact in her. She knew how to find that peace in that space.
Yes, that is absolutely the gift, and for her, but also not just for Emily, for all of the people that listen to the meditations that you create. They are so powerful in that they are short and achievable, I think, for people that I have no time to meditate. This makes it accessible and doable. It's achievable. Yeah. How did you
and that's the goal.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it. That's how we've found each other. How did that journey, that transition into creating your meditations and then a podcast, how did that come about?
Well, I actually, like I said, I started meditating to help manage my POTS symptoms. And it helped me so significantly in so many ways. And I started small, like a minute. So even 5 minutes might have been a challenge initially, right? And I built my way up. And so for me, I just noticed so many positive impacts from that. Like, I felt even more present than I had in the past, especially when I was having those higher symptom days. When I had more things to balance in my schedule, it helped me be able to return to what I have always felt like were kind of things I was naturally strong at, but it had gotten harder like to be able to manage that schedule and manage the balance. But when I started my day with it, it didn't feel as overwhelming. So I was able to return to kind of those strengths that I would have always prided myself in before. It helped me feel calm, helps me kind of quiet. I have a lot of thoughts running in my mind a lot of the time because I have a lot of different things I'm managing. Helps quiet that, which is really, really helpful.
Yeah.
And it does help the symptoms of POTS. For me, it has at least pretty significantly. So if I feel like I'm going into some kind of a flare, sometimes if I can do that, I think being able to turn to meditation for me personally allows me to more than anything connect with myself and listen to what I need. So that I'm able to meet that need, which sometimes can help prevent it from getting worse, which I'm very grateful if I can prevent it from getting worse. So when I started noticing all of those pretty significant shifts in myself, I started sharing meditations with my clients as a counselor. And when I started doing that, they also started reporting similar benefits when I could get them to consistently do it. So they would come back and say, oh, I noticed I wasn't as reactive, or wow, I just felt more in control today, or more present, or I feel less overwhelmed, or I noticed, something happened at work and I would have gone on before and I didn't. I was able to go, and take a moment. So it just seemed to make a difference. And at the time, I was using an app called Aura. I was using that personally to listen to short guided meditations when I didn't have time to meditate silently by myself. And I saw that they were looking for content creators to create meditations and provide content on their app. So I actually wrote a meditation and recorded it because I had used them with my clients, but never recorded them. Recorded one, emailed it to Aura, and they emailed me back that day and said, "Oh, we'd love for you to join our app." So I attended this group interview and then started putting up some content there. And so I record short guided meditations for them and therapy tracks and mental health tracks, to just kind of give some guidance to like managing anxiety, reframing thoughts, managing sadness, those kinds of things. And then also short meditations. And I've loved it. I mean, it's been so much fun working for them. I love doing it. It doesn't get bored. It doesn't feel like work. Um, but it is a subscription app. So I recognize that a lot of the people that I don't have the means to subscribe to the app, I can give people 30 days free for it. Like I have a link to do that. I put that on my podcast and on all my social media. But some people just ultimately don't have that money in their budget, which is completely understandable, And a lot of people, I think, especially with chronic illness or, parents navigating raising kids and all the expenses of all of these things, just don't have. So I decided that I was going to create some additional meditations on my own and put them out into the world. So I started a podcast because that seemed the most expedient way to do it. So I put them out on a podcast as just kind of a free resource. And I guess also as a counselor, we stay so full. I mean, my caseload is full all the time. I get phone calls every week from people who I have to say, I just don't have any availability right now. And so now I do tell them also about the podcast. It's not counseling. It's not going to fill, everything that they're looking for. But I guess I view it as some support that's out there. It's free. It's just a few minutes. Most people can fit it into their day. So it just kind of just wanted it to be this resource for people who need it,
Yeah. It's such a gift because your voice is so soothing, and the music that you have with it, and it's, you can easily just drop into that bubble of calm. I find just hearing it, you can drop into, you can sense what you are creating. You are creating this little space for people to drop into, and it feels safe and it feels held, and there's this equanimity within yourself, this harmony that you can experience, and it's so achievable because it's only a few minutes a day. If if people do it daily or once a week, or you've got a few on there now, so they can listen to whichever one.
Yeah, I think I actually don't know. I think I'm up to 18, 19, something like that.
Yeah,
But
so
there's a
good.
new one every week, so they'll keep building there. And I've had a lot of people reach out. I mean, basically on Instagram mostly, but they've reached out and sent me their stories or how listening to just a few minutes of meditation has helped, or the fact that they never thought they could listen to a meditation and
Yes.
how much this has shown them they can and how much it does help them. And I appreciate those stories so very much. And I know a couple of other people who have podcasts, especially for moms, have reached out and said, I've been sharing this on my page because of the short nature. I feel like it's something that a busy mom can fit in. They can do
Yeah.
this no matter how busy
Yeah.
their day feels. And so that feels really good because that's the goal, is for it to kind of find its audience, and for like I said, I believe everyone's kind of going through something, right? And this can give them just a few minutes that they can just dedicate to themselves, because sometimes it feels like it's hard to find that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's why I just, as soon as I'd heard your first, or the first time I listened to it, it was just so beautiful. And so, yeah, um, it's like the medicine for mothers, not just for mothers, for anybody, but just permission to give ourselves that pause. I always talk about having a sacred pause, but within
Mhm.
that pause time, you can listen to these beautiful guided meditations, um, particularly, like you say, for those that like the idea of meditating, but they just don't know how to start or don't think they'll be able to sit there on their own and do that. And this is a really great entry point into, oh, okay, that sense of this is what it feels like to be, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's what it is that you bring, is that sense of true being, um, that they can really embody. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that to the world. I think it really is rippling out, and I'd love it to ripple out even more. So, people listening, do go and listen. It's just beautiful. So, Love Your Calm, right? That's the name of your podcast. Yeah,
Yes, love your
yeah,
calm mini meditations. So
yeah. So good. So I'll have all of those links in the show notes as well, so people can go and listen in and love their calm. Yeah, it's yeah, beautiful. So Hannah, what do you do for yourself? I know you do lots of things, but if I asked you what you do to keep your soul full, what is the thing or things that really do that for you?
you're right, so many things. um Time with family always would be at the top of the list, and I try to get that as often as possible. My daughter and her fiance, and now their son, live less than a mile from me, so I love that. So we get to see one another all the time. Time with friends, of course, matters. Um, Meditating for me will always be a part of that, just because that also lets me check in with whatever else I may feel like I need to include. And for
Yeah.
me, that's really important. But beyond that, I would say I love being outside. So if I can have the time to go for a walk in the woods or in the trees or even at the local park, we're so lucky to have local parks pretty close to us.
Yeah.
I will never take that for granted, because there have been so many points in my life when I couldn't. So when I'm able to get outside and really go for a walk, I just love that. And I love that feeling. We have two Dalmatians. I love to take them for walks. And I love to cook. So um making really just good food. I have
Mm.
some dietary restrictions, and so I've been able to teach myself to make a lot of things that meet those criteria that are still really good. So
Yes.
I really enjoy doing that. So, and I don't know, I'm a bit of a coffee nut, so there is that. Drinking coffee, probably not the best habit, but also does keep my soul full. So
Yeah. I
part of the
love
list.
that. Yeah. in so many things. And when you're saying it, I can just, it's just in you, like it lights you up, and I can just see it. So, wonderful. Thank you so, so much for your time and your sharing so generously your story, and even the education around POTS, a little bit more about what that is and how it's so unique and different for individual people. It may not express in the exact same way. And just this gift of the meditations that you're bringing, the work that you're doing, that calm that you're bringing in, and I love that. The ripple, if we could have the ripple of calm out into from our homes into our communities, into the world, what a place it would be.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? I always like to say that, whenever I record a meditation, I always love the image of people all over the world listening to it. That I just kind of picture these little pockets of calm, right? Starting as these little teeny packets.
Yeah,
But yeah, it would be
yeah,
so wonderful if they could expand and just grow a little bigger.
yeah,
Because I think we all need that.
yeah, we do. But I think it is happening. And that's, I mean, your podcast, what did you say, nearly 20 episodes, or it's it's still new, but the impulse from within you to share that is, I think this is happening for many people. Okay, what can we do to
Yeah.
make a positive impact? And
Right. Because if we all work together, we can certainly bring some healing into this world. And I
yeah,
think that's so beautiful and so necessary.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And so we'll just keep focusing on that and watch it unfold in that beautiful, everything and anything's possible. So when we're focusing on the light and the love and the calm and the balance and the harmony, then we see more of that, and other people can experience more of that too.
I
Yeah.
love that so much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time, and keep doing what you're doing. I'll be tuning in every week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hannah is just beautiful, isn't she? Her voice is so calming, and I'm pretty sure you just want to finish this, listening to this, so you can go and find her. So her podcast is called Love Your Calm, and that's her Instagram name as well. And her meditations are just so good. They really are just so good. And so achievable for those that have never meditated before, or feel that you don't have time. They're all short, the 5, 6, 7 minutes. They're not that long. Very, very doable, and they're guided with beautiful music in the background and her very calming voice, as you can tell from this conversation. It's such a gift. So do yourself a favor and go and follow her and listen in. You really, really won't regret it. Many takeaways, as you know, but there's just a few key points that I just want to bring your awareness back to, and that's the importance of building relationships, any type of relationship, but particularly with your children. Like, you have to work on them and build them up, and the importance of connection. And connection, that's part of the building the relationship, but it's beyond monetary things and buying stuff, and sometimes even doing stuff. It's the being part of it, being together, spending quality time, and really deepening that relationship. The conversation around the importance of self-care. Hannah's shared a bit about her condition, POTS, and her not being as, or when she let the self-care slip, that's when her symptoms really flared up. So for her, it's an absolute non-negotiable. But for all of us, really, I mean, Hannah can see it quite visibly when she's not doing the things she needs to do to look after her body and her, heart, mind, and soul. But that's for everybody. So self-care back at the top of the list, and self-compassion as well. Being kind and gentle with ourselves. So I just think this is such a perfect timing to bring Hannah's story to you all, and the gift that she is leaving us with, that access to these beautiful meditations that she is putting out into the world, which are just such good medicine for us all. So yeah, thank you, Hannah. I really appreciate your time and your energy, because I know that takes a lot of energy to do this. So thank you. Thank you all for listening. I absolutely appreciate each of you, and I don't take it lightly that you're tuning in and spending your time here. So thank you. Have a beautiful, soul-filling week ahead. As always, reach out. I love your conversations. I love your comments. Please keep them coming. And I won't give anything away, but next week's episode is so good. So good. Anyway, tune in and you'll hear what I mean. I'll see you soon.